Hello, I'm Kate Jones, here with an excerpt from a recent interview that I did with philanthropist and author Iris November and two of her four daughters, the Reverend Rachel Hollander, also an author, and Anita Hollander, an actress and composer. This short episode focuses on Rachel, whose book, From There to Here, An Insider's Guide to Navigating the Darkness, came out in 2021. It's a captivating story about living with depression.
Anyway, Rachel.
Yes.
From there to here, I am 2/3 through. I love this book.
Thank you.
So why don't you just start? Why did you write it?
So the book was birthed right at COVID, but it was something that I'd been working on for 7 years. I wanted to write a book about how I learned to live with depression, because that's the operative word, how to live with it, not suffer from it. I don't have it. I certainly don't own it, and it doesn't own me. It's a button for me when people say, I suffer from depression. I'm like, you don't have to. You can struggle, you can wrestle, and you live with it every day. So I started thinking, I want to write this book. And then it just became this big behemoth, the book. And so I was like, I can't do it. And my wonderful, beloved friend, Joni, said to me, do me a favor, write me 2 pages on what it feels like when you wake up in the morning. I said, okay. So I did that, sent it to her. And she goes, great. Write 2 pages on what's your best coping mechanism. I'm like, okay. So I did that. And she goes, now write me 2 or 3 pages, a story from your childhood. And I said, okay. And I did that. And she said, this is your book. Just start writing short pieces. What's it like when you feel like you can't get out of bed? What's a good day like? And then throw in some memoir, childhood stories, stories of going to Italy, stories of doing the Grand Canyon, people you miss, people that are gone from your life that are precious to you. Just start writing 2 to 3 pages each. Keep it short. So over the course of about 7 years, I just started doing this and then collecting them. And then I would send them to her. And she would sort of put them in an order or section them off. And then at some point I was like, I have to stop. I have to stop writing because I've got all this stuff. And so that's when I found medium.com, which is this excellent website. It's like YouTube for writers. And so you can publish whatever you want there. So I thought, all right, I'm going to put a cap on the book. That's it. That's what goes in the book. Then I can just keep writing whatever comes up. And with the help of Joni and the wonderful Dina Rubin, who was my editor, and the magnificent Victoria Price, who designed the cover, helped me choose the font, which I call Mommy font, because I picked a font that my mom could read.
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't like Times New Roman. I wanted something a little prettier, readable. So we went with Mommy font. Victoria is a published author. And I asked her, maybe I should send it to publishers. And she said, they're going to want to make changes. And I said, okay, then no, let's self-publish. So we went to 48 Hour Books, great company. If you're writing a book, use them. And then the book came. Like it was birthed and I was holding it in my hand and it was like, here it is. Here's my baby. And then the strangest thing happened. The boxes of books arrived at my apartment and I had a list of people to send them to. And all of a sudden I started crying. And I was like, wait, what's going on? And so I stepped away from the table and I kind of curled up on my bed. And at that time I had my beloved Maddie, my companion pup. And I was like, why am I crying? And I realized that there was a little tiny part of me, the little 10-year-old Rachel, thought that once this was out, the depression would be gone. I didn't think it, but a little part of me thought it. That once the book's published, then I'm better, I'm done, it's over, you know? And it wasn't. Even as I was packing the books, it was like that stuff was still there. And I thought, well, that's why you wrote the book, Rachel. Because you're living with it. It's the worst roommate ever. Doesn't do laundry, leaves dishes in the sink, lays on the couch playing games on her phone all day. Worst roommate. However, it's my roommate. So I get to learn how to live with it. That was the big lesson. Now the book is 4 years old and still doing quite well, just on my own, just getting it out there.
It's a beautiful book. And not depressing. There are some tough things in it, of course. And it's also funny. You have a really good way of putting things. And there's a lot of spirituality in it. Love that. So I want to talk about specific places that I had marked. On page 103, you were asked a question. So, Rachel, how do you fill your days?
Oh, that question. So I'd been living in Alaska and had not planned to leave. And then I had to leave. My life changed and it was no longer a place I could be. So Maddie and I got in the car and we drove from Anchorage to Ithaca, New York. We were going to move to Eugene, Oregon. And Joni, my friend Joni, said, "Why are you moving to Eugene?" And I said, "It sounds like a pretty place." And Joni said, "Do you know anyone there?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "Yeah, you're moving to Ithaca." Because I was not in a good space. And she was like, "If you move somewhere where you don't know anyone, we're going to lose you."
What an amazing friend she has been.
Oh, she's astounding.
Yes. Joni, my goodness, she's brilliant and she knows you so well.
Yeah, I'm blessed with wonderful friends, wonderful lifelong friends. So we moved to Ithaca and I was so lost and I kept saying, I can't find my feet. Like, I can't find my feet. There was no grounding in my life. And so after 10 months in Ithaca, I moved to Cleveland, where I said I would never come back to. I moved home.
I wasn't ever planning to come back either.
Oh gosh, never come back.
Yeah.
And I wasn't employed and I didn't have a college degree and I didn't have direction and I was really in a dangerous space. And my mom, doing her philanthropy, kept saying, "I need a +1 to this event. I need a +1 to this event." So I started going to all these events with her. And I don't know that she knows this, but I would lie when people would ask me, "What do you do?" I hate that question. Hate it. And so they would say, "So what do you do?" And I would be, "Oh, well, I'm a freelance photographer for National Geographic. I counsel young children." I was making up all these things that I did.
Sounds good.
I didn't want to say, "What do I do?" I spend hours on my couch crying. What do you do? You know, like, what was I going to say? And so we went to this event for the Centers for Family and Children. My mom was donating a patio or a courtyard.
Yeah, the courtyard. That is lovely.
And I was standing there dressed nicely, dreading the question, "So, Rachel, what do you do?" And Lee Fisher, famous Ohioan and wonderful gentleman, my mom knows his wife. And so she was like, "I want to introduce you to Peggy and Leah." I was like, oh God, here we go. Now I'm going to embarrass myself in front of Lee Fisher. And he took my hand in both of his hands and he said, "So, Rachel, how do you fill your days?" And I started crying. I just started crying. Oh my God. And I said, "That is the best question I've ever been asked." And I said, "I write, I play music, I sing, I walk my dog, I talk to friends, I plan, I make plans." Suddenly I had a list of answers to that question where, "What do you do?" I had no answers. And that changed everything.
That's why he's the dean of Baldwin Wallace.
Yes.
Now. He's a wonderful man, just wonderful.
And the best question ever.
Yeah. And so when the book came out, all these people said, "I'm going to start using that." So now there's like tons of people all over the country and some in the world who are now saying, "How do you fill your days?" instead of "What do you do?" And I love that legacy. And I should clarify, when you said the book is somewhat spiritual, I usually go by Reverend Rachel. I'm an InterFaith, InterSpiritual minister. And so that is a big part of my life.
Absolutely. It's spiritual, though. It's not religious.
I spend a lot of time saying, "I'm not that kind of minister." I say, "I'm Reverend Rachel. Don't worry, I'm not that kind of minister."
Is there anything more you want to say about living with depression?
So when I wrote the book, I wanted it to be a user's guide. I wanted it to be a manual, not something you read and then put on the shelf. Keep it handy, use it, write notes in it. It's literally a user's guide to surviving, to surthriving, as I like to say, the word surthrival. It's important to be kind to ourselves. There have been moments, there's still moments, obviously, because I live with it, where I go into the darkness and my mom will say, "Read your book. Go read your book." And so I pick it up, I open it to a random page, and I'm like, right. It's important to remember that we live with a lot, and not one thing needs to knock us down. My sister Anita lived with cancer and conquered it. I'm putting that in air quotes. There are people who live with diabetes. There are people who live with grief. We live with so much, especially these days. We're living with chaos. If we let all of that wash over us like a tsunami and go down, we won't survive.
I'm just going to say we live with loss. Friends, husbands, mothers, fathers. That's part of everybody's life.
Yes.
Part of the human existence that we're
Exactly.
here temporarily.
Yes.
A little boy in Alabama asked me at the end of the show down there, little boy said, how many people die of disability? And so I talked to him gently about how everybody on the stage lives with disability. Everybody's going to die, but we're not dying of our disability. We're living with disability, which is exactly what Rachel is saying. And this happened just a few days ago when this boy was very concerned about this. And I was like, we don't die of a disability. We live with a disability.
Perfect answer. I saw this, I was watching. And first of all, that he had the courage to ask that question, but that you answered it in such a clear way that I'm sure that he left feeling uplifted.
Also, the thing about living with is you have choices. If you live with depression, you have choices all the time. There's a part in the book we talked about the summit, this meeting I had in meditation with God and my dad who had passed. And the discussion was, are you staying or are you going? And what I learned was if you stay, you have choices. If you go, that's the last choice you make. Okay. So as long as we're living with, even when we're struggling and wrestling, and boy, do I wrestle. I wrestle with depression a lot. I jokingly call myself Jacob because, Jacob wrestling with the angel and all that stuff in the Hebrew Bible. But I wrestle with it all the time. I get mad at it. I have temper tantrums. And I'm still here. I'm still choosing.
For more, please check out the other 5 excerpts, or if you have the time, the full episode. It's quite an extraordinary conversation. Thank you for listening to Everyday Creation.